still
How
with
was
us,
that
right?
yoga? You guys feeling good? That was pretty neat, huh?
Did anyone let out an accidental toot? That's what I want to know. All I thought was I'm watching the monitor and like, it's okay, you can do that. So we're going to talk about starting a healthy reboot. For instance, one of the things I did in the last 36 days as Jacqueline, and we're going to do our intro in a second, but Jacqueline decided she was going to get back into competitive figure modeling for fitness, and that's a really healthy job. And so I said, I'll do it with you, but not the same thing because I couldn't possibly wear a bikini. But I decided to really work on my health. So standing on stage 36 days ago to now, I went from a size 42 jean to a 36 waist jean. And thank you. But there's a good way to do that and a not so good way to do that. We want to talk about the healthy reboot. So I'm Chris Brogan, and actually in this speech, I'm just the fat guy. And this is Jacqueline Carly, my girlfriend, and she's the one with all the credentials. You should kind of lay out a little bit more about who you are.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jacqueline Carly. I'm actually born and raised in New York City, but now I live in Boston. Woo, New York. I miss it a lot. So I have been studying fitness and health for many, many years. I grew up overweight, had an eating disorder for many years, and eventually that led me to study nutrition. I have a master's in nutrition. I'm completing my PhD in mind-body medicine, and I've been a personal trainer, yoga instructor, kind of runs the gamut of fitness and health.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how many other certifications you didn't mention there, like your CrossFit endurance training certification, your personal professional trainer one, the Institute.
I'm kind of a cert junkie.
Yeah.
Kinda.
And if you read her Twitter handle, it says, "Big fat books turn me on." I'm hoping to have that question on the Newlywed Show or something, and then I'll know it. So one of the things we want to talk about was sort of the good and bad of goals. And Jack will attest that I'm a little insane when it comes to goals and numbers and things like that.
Obsessed.
So maybe we should talk first about how I chose not to use the scale as one of my goals, and how I decided that I was going to go buy a certain waist size of jeans and a shirt size or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell the tale of woe of that?
Well, it took 2 years for Chris to get rid of his scale, for me to convince him to get rid of his scale. I don't have anything really against the scale per se, but it's just one measurement. It's one number. And so the problem sometimes is that people get obsessed with that one number. And if the scale doesn't move for a week, then all of a sudden they internalize that. I'm bad, I'm not doing it right, something's wrong. And Chris would really take that to heart and basically judge himself based on this number. And I was trying to explain to him that there's so many other ways that you can basically measure your progress, and not to mention the fact that once you start changing, switching over to muscle, burning fat and switching muscle weighs more than fat. The number is not going to be what you think it's going to be.
Yeah, well, 36 days later or whatever that number is, I started my weight at 265. I weigh now 265. So I went from a 42 size jean to a 36 size jean. I weigh exactly the same amount on the scale. So that'll give you a little sense of that, right? I mean, I was pushing a 2X size shirt. Now I can wear a large size shirt. So that's one of those things about numbers. But we were also talking about the importance of goals, because I have this other bad habit, which is I want to do everything everyone else does. Some people are kind of like food envious. The other person's dish comes out and you're like, oh, I think I want that. I am fitness envious. And so Jack says she's going to be a competitive figure model. I go, okay, I'll get into some bodybuilding and stuff. I could figure, I'd like to be Arnold.
And now he just got a new bike, and now he wants to be a cyclist.
Now I want to be a cyclist and a fitness guy. But cyclists, it turns out, aren't weightlifters per se. They're like little string beans made out of cabled muscle, and they just look very different. So we wanted to make sure that you understood that goals mattered. The other is sources of information. This is, if you were the NSA and listening to our phone calls every day, they'd be like this. Hey, Jack, Muscle and Fitness magazine says that I should do that. And either one of two answers will come back. I told you that 5 months ago. That's the most common answer. And then the other one is, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. And then she'll dig into PubMed and real medical journals, and there will be no truth to this fact. So why don't you talk about sources of information a little?
So I'm not suggesting that everybody needs to go and to dig into major research and PubMed and all that other stuff. But what I really want to stress is that you shouldn't just take information at face value. Just because a magazine says something does not mean that they have real backed up sources or that it's so. Or even if they say something it is so, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. And so I really try to stress that you should ask a lot of questions and that you should talk to different professionals and experiment and see what works for you. And try something for 4 weeks, stick to it. Consistency is a huge thing. People try things for a week and they're like, oh, that's stupid, that didn't work. And it may be that that thing is not for you, but have you tried it long enough to even see if there was any type of change in progress? And so there's a gazillion diet and nutrition, fitness books and everything. I definitely believe there's no one right way for everybody, and we all have, our bodies are different and things work for different people. But really, there's no holy gospel. There's no only paleo, only Atkins, only South Beach, let me tell you, I've done, growing up, I did the all diet, hamburger meat and water diet. I did the Eggo waffles and hot dog diet. I've tried them all, and some of them work. They're not necessarily good for you, but they work. But really, don't just trust the information because you read it and they say this is what it is. Really, go by how you feel. If you're trying something new, how are you feeling today? Is it making you feel sick? Do you feel like, that your body is just not down for it? Maybe that it's not the thing for you.
It's really funny when everyone asks me about, my choices in diet, because what I've come to learn is that the fitness part of it is 20%, the diet's 80%. When everyone asks me, oh, you must be hungry all the time, I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to beg to get all the food into my body. I eat all the time, I think, now. It's the opposite, and I'm losing weight the more I eat. So it's kind of the what we eat, obviously, but we won't go into that in any depth. Simplicity was another thing we want to bring up, because it's amazing how people make things so complex, and it's stunning, the simplicity that needs to happen. Any thought on that?
Yeah. Well, there's, especially in today's world, we have all this really cool technology, which is awesome. We have our little jawbone ups and everything. Chris takes his a little bit more seriously than I do. I just like taking pictures of my food.
I look like I'm following the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, on the feed. Chris likes these, exact numbers and stuff like that. But really, when you're getting started, instead of looking at it in terms of all the things you need to take out of your diet, it should be more about kind of adding in some good things little by little and really making it easy. The more you add in good things, those bad things are going to kind of weed themselves out over time as you start to feel better. And the other thing is not to make it so complicated in terms of, well, I have to wake up and take my heart rate and do my heart rate variability, and then I have to, go to the gym and I have to do this much of cardio and I have to do this much weights, and I have to make sure that I'm eating exactly at this time and this time. If you're a competitor, yeah, that's great. But if you're just trying to get started and you're just trying to feel good, that's what you need to be focusing on.
Have a couple cucumbers, a few less Eggo waffles, call it good. Things to track and not track. We led with saying, that it was bad for me to track my weight. I have gained.
Bad.
Oh, sorry. It wasn't a good measure for me because I went from one size to the same size, and I'm obsessive.
Some people can weigh themselves without any problem, and they're not attached to the number.
No, I hate myself. The number did not change. I'm going to hell now.
But other good ways are pictures. I like pictures. I take pictures of myself every 4 weeks. Yeah. I take a front, a back, and a side, and then I put it aside, and then for the 4 weeks, I do my thing, and 4 weeks later, I come back and I take the picture, and then I compare. Or I go by my clothes, how my clothes feel.
And I started doing that because she made me, and it's more rewarding to look at the picture difference in a month than it is the other thing. The only last thing we were going to talk about, and this relates to that in a little ways, is motivation and inspiration and where we get it. And we were going to talk about, this is the social media component of it, is the fact that you got me started on this, following people on Instagram and all that.
I love Instagram.
So what do you get out of that? Like, how do you apply that to your fitness choices and all that?
I find I'm a very visual person, so I love to see pictures of people that inspire me, people working out. I love to see pictures of recipes. There's a lot of people taking pictures of healthy recipes and then posting the recipe right underneath. It's also a way that people post things that, inspirational words that motivate me, and it's like Twitter, but it's a visual community, I think.
And the other thing I found is that on Twitter, there's a lot of fitness professionals that are very willing to have a conversation with you, so don't feel weirded out by talking to people from the UFC or professional bodybuilders or whatnot, because they're there for you. I had one other thing just to point out, because we're going to get played off now, and that is just that don't ever think you need somebody else to succeed. You are the superhero that you've been waiting for. Can you hold this a minute?
Woo!
She's Jacqueline Carley. I'm just the fat guy. Thank you so much for your time.